Great. We will go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Resident Opportunity and Self-Sufficiency Program Welcome and Orientation for our fiscal year 2018 grantees. Just want to remind folks that this is only for our 2018 grantees that just received an award. If you're not a 2018 grantee, we would love for you to stay on, but this call may not be the best for you as far as some of the details that we'll go over today. So if you are a 2018 grantee, congratulations on receiving a Ross Award. We are happy to work with you as we all work to provide not only better quality of life for our public housing residents, but also improve and move residents towards self-sufficiency. All right, so I'm going to do a few introductions. My name is Tremaine Humans, or you guys can call me Trey. I am the Ross Program Manager. I am in the Office of Public and Indian Housing, which is in the office, I'm in the Office of Public Housing Investments, which is in the Office of Public and Indian Housing, and I'm part of the Community and Supportive Services team. And within that, on our team, we have a few self-sufficiency programs, including Family Self-Sufficiency, the Ross program, which you guys know about, the Jobs Plus program, but also in our office we have Choice Neighborhood, Moving to Work, Connect Home, Juvenile Reentry Assistance Program, trying to think. There's some financial literacy work, Project SOAR, also known as Ross for Education. There's a bunch of initiatives and grant programs that also sit within our office. So, of course, if you guys ever get to the point where you want to know about other programs, others in my office can be of support as well. I'm not sure if she's on the call, but definitely want to mention her name, and that is Monique Wisdom. She is the National Grants Management Specialist for the area ONAP office, or she works here at headquarters, but for those that are tribes or tribal housing authorities, she may be a great connect for you guys moving forward. Then there's Charles Eldridge, which I'm not sure if he's on the call, but he's a name you should also know. He's the National Grant Manager for those that are non-tribal entities. So that would be Public Housing Authority, resident associations, and our nonprofits. He would be contact for in the field. So I'm at headquarters. Charles Eldridge and Monique Wisdom are also at the headquarters, but they work with myself, and they are really the liaison between headquarters and our field offices. Then we have Dina, she's actually on another call. She sits in our office, but you may hear from her every once in a while. She supports me here at headquarters with the Ross program. And then there's Thaddeus Winsek, whom you will hear on this call, who is a Standard for Success Program Manager, which will give more information about that. And there's other HUD staff that you guys will come to know within probably the next couple of weeks if you haven't already been introduced to those in your either area ONAP office or your the public housing field office. You'll get to know them within the next couple of weeks. All right. I just want to also mention that this session is being recorded, and we will provide a link once that link is available, and we will have time for Q&A at the end, and we'll give directions on how we can do that. But if you have some burning questions, there is a chat box that is should be to the right of your screen where you can type in your questions, and we'll try to get to them during the Q&A. So a little about you guys. One, do want to say that we here at HUD, especially our program offices, we're very excited about this cohort of grantees because we did make some minor but some major changes to the Ross NOFA and how we were reviewing and scoring by adding a scoring component, but as well as adding some nuances to the program, more so the areas of need and requiring all applicants to complete a needs assessment. Hopefully you guys didn't find the needs assessment to be too much of an administrative burden. However, we wanted to make sure that if you're awarded that you guys are addressing some of the areas of need. With that being said, and I'll get into it a little bit more, we also wanted to make sure grantees were a lot more focused and how we were evaluating or will be evaluating them moving forward. So who are you? You guys make up $28.9 million to 112 grantees. So we did total renewal amount was $16.3 million, and for those that are new grantees, a total of $12 million. And I do want to note that that $12 million is higher than we've been or normally have done, as well as I want to say we awarded all eligible applicants, which is something we have not been able to do in years past. So everyone that was eligible for funding was able to be funded this year. And so that was a good win from HUD, knowing that not only did folks present strong applications, but they also were able to get funded. So we received over 200 applications, and you guys joined over 250 active grants. And I want to say there's almost probably 400 or so active grants, including you guys. So we have 12 resident associations that are part of this cohort. There are 73 public housing authorities. There are 19 tribes, which is a much higher number than normal. We've normally maybe awarded around 5 each year, but this year we have 19, so we're definitely looking forward to working closely with our tribal, our ONAP office. And then our nonprofit organizations, 8. And I believe we have some new nonprofits that are may be their first HUD grant, so I want to welcome you guys as well. So other interesting facts with our areas of need, we have a lot of folks that are focusing on education, financial literacy, and our health and wellness. We were thought it was really cool that a lot of folks, I want to say it's 93 of the 112 focusing on financial literacy, which we know is a really important need to be addressed. And what we thought was also really cool is those that were linking financial literacy with those that are elderly and disabled residents. So we're looking forward to learning from you guys what you guys are experiencing on the ground. More so than that, we look forward to seeing how each of these areas of needs are being addressed in your communities. So you can look at the map and see that you guys are everywhere. So if I ever wanted to travel and visit you guys, I can go anywhere in the country, including Alaska. And I think we have 3 grantees in Alaska if you look to the left of the screen. I won't visit there in the winter, but I will be happy to go in the summer. Okay, we're going to move forward. So I'm going to give a ROSS overview. So what is ROSS? Many of you guys may know this, but ROSS is designed to assist residents of public and Indian housing to make progress towards self-sufficiency. In the case of elderly and disabled residents, the service coordinator links up to supportive services which enables them to age and remain in place. And it's important to point out that those that are serving elderly and disabled residents, self-sufficiency is going to be defined a little bit different than those that are serving work-able adults. So I do want to point that out, that for those that are elderly and disabled residents, it's more about quality of life and them aging and remaining in place, which may cut down costs, but of course also improve their quality of life. So continuing with what is ROSS, this program works to promote development of local strategies to coordinate the use of assistance under public housing and the HAZA program with public and private resources for supportive services and resident empowerment activities. So the ROSS program is only going to be as good as not only your strategies, but as well as your partners that make up the service providers that serve our residents. And so how may you achieve this? Self-sufficiency, want to define what self-sufficiency is, at least for this program, is an individual's ability to support their household by maintaining financial, housing, and personal family stability. So we want to make sure that they're stable in all of these areas. And so to achieve that, an individual move along a continuum towards economic independence and stability. Such movement is facilitated by a state of well-being that enables, supports achievement of personal goals. So by the end of the ROSS program, do all residents need to be self-sufficient? No, but we do want to see that residents are moving towards self-sufficiency, whether that be through economic independence, or financial security and being financially stable, or even just with housing. And as we may know, although we may, provide housing in the form of public housing or those that are tribes through the different rental assistance programs that you all have, but housing still may be an area that needs to be strengthened as far as stability is concerned. So the core functions of ROSS, one of which you already did, but will continue to do, is the resident needs assessment. Then the next piece is the service coordination, which is the hiring of the service coordinator to link the residents to supportive services. And then there's case management, which we hope that each of our residents will at least get some form of, and like case management can come from the service coordinator. And what I mean by that is, of course, when you're doing service coordination, there may be some form of case management that needs to happen in order for you to know what services to link a resident to. And then resident engagement. We want to make sure that residents see the ROSS program also as a vehicle to be engaged in different areas to impact their quality of life, as also to improve self-sufficiency efforts at their housing authorities. So what types of services can be coordinated? So you'll see here a list, and it's also in your FY18 NOFA. I'll just go down with a few, but child care services, adult basic education, high school diploma and GED program. We see job training, financial literacy, healthcare coordination, nutritional courses, employer linkage, and job placement, and the list keeps going. Do want to point out some other last three budgets for those, bullets, expunging, filling, or correcting criminal records or securing certificates of rehabilitation dependent on state jurisdiction, substance abuse treatment, and civil legal assistance. So I'm sure the work is not necessarily new, but the language in the NOFA was fairly new, but this is something that you all as service coordinators can coordinate. And then for those that are serving elderly and disabled residents, assisting with activities of daily living, meal services to meet nutritional needs, personal emergency response resources, and disability service counseling. And this is all, when we're thinking about these services to be coordinated, I also want you guys to be thinking about how to engage those residents with these services as well. So program outcomes. So we wanted to put in our NOFA, what kind of outcomes we're looking to see from you guys as it relates to each of the areas of need that you are addressing. And so for those that are doing education, and I want to say all are doing more than one, I think the NOFA specified that you had to have a minimum of 2 but we did not expect all grantees to do all of the areas of need. And just to take it a step further for those that are renewal grantees, you may remember with the logic model, and I'll kind of give a heads up that we are not using the logic model, and we'll talk about what reporting system you guys will be using. Some of you guys may be cheering right now, but in the logic model had several different metrics that each grantee was responsible for doing. And I think it was about 14 metrics, and in my opinion, they were heavy. You can just have a service coordinator around education alone. And so we want to make sure that our grantees had an opportunity to focus their efforts in whatever need needs to be addressed, and also where they may find specialty as well within their community. So for those that are serving or addressing education, we want to see that there's a positive % change in education attainment, a % increase in number of work-able adults with no high school diploma enrolled in a GED class, or work-able adults enrolled in adult continuing education. For health and wellness, positive % change in education attainment, % increase in number of work-able adults with no high school diploma enrolled in a GED class, and/or, oh, that is a typo. I apologize for that. So the health and wellness is positive. I will refer to the NOFA, and I'll let you guys know, but that is a bit different. So I'm going to skip over to the next one, which is reentry and/or substance abuse, positive change in barriers removed, leading to employment, health, and well-being. And for residents with drug and alcohol dependency, a positive % change in the number of residents receiving treatment. For financial literacy, a positive increase in resident net worth, positive increase in credit score, increase in the number of residents with no bank accounts, and elderly and disabled residents, positive change in the number of barriers removed, leading to stability in health and well-being, and positive change in number of barriers removed to maintain housing stability. And I think for those that were doing reentry, substance abuse, and elderly and disabled, it also referred to other metrics such as employment and health and wellness for you guys to see as far as program outcomes. I apologize for that typo. So eligible uses of funds. So with the Ross grant, there are 3 areas of which you can use your funds. Salary, which is for the hiring and the course salary of the service coordinator. Then there's the training and travel, which is for the service coordinator. So it's if the service coordinator wants to receive a training on something related to the Ross program, for example, they want to go to a Ross conference, or they want to go to a NAM McKay training or any type of training, then they could use these funds to go to that training. We did up the money this year for our training and travel, which we were in the past at $2,000, but we're now at $2,500, which means that we want to encourage service coordinators to participate in trainings. And as you guys may know or may not know, not all of our grant programs have training funds, and this is something that I've advocated that we see more training dollars for our coordinators, so we want you guys to take advantage of that. Just want to specify that this money for training and travel is for the service coordinator and should not be for others at the housing authority that want to use the funds that's not related to or are part of the Ross program. So this is for the service coordinator. As well as administrative costs, so this is for administrative staff support, local transportation by the service coordinator, tracking and evaluation, purchase of office furniture or office equipment, purchase of hardware or software to support Ross participants, program outreach, printing and postage, lease or rental space for program activities. And want to also kind of give context when we talk about the administrative costs, because you guys may see throughout the duration of the program that there may be um, some confusion, but really the admin cost is to support the service coordinator and can support program participants, ROSS program participants, but it cannot be reoccurring. It has to be sort of like a one-time thing and also has to be reasonable. So it's really for the support of that service coordinator and supporting the ROSS program. All right. So ineligible uses of funds. Funds may not be used for any activities other than salary fringe of ROSS coordinators and related administrative training costs. Funds may not be used to pay for salary of FSS coordinators. And I want to say that I've seen a few FSS coordinators emailing me saying we're so excited to run the ROSS program. So I think you guys have to look into that if you are an FSS coordinator and also a ROSS coordinator, to avoid any issues with HUD as it concerns that. ROSS funds cannot be used to hire or pay a contract administrator. And administrative funds may only be used to support the ROSS program. A grantee's central office cost may not use ROSS administrative funds to cover other grantees' costs. Okay. So RAD, I'm just going to go out and say that we are going to plan a webinar on RAD alone because we understand that this is probably a hot topic and something that you all should be aware of. So ROSS grantees may not serve units that receive the CHAP commitment prior to the FY18 ROSS application deadline. If families live in units that received a CHAP commitment after the application deadline, the ROSS coordinator may continue to serve those families. However, if the units convert from public housing to another form of rental assistance prior to the start of the grant term, which is March 18th, next week Monday, those residents cannot be served. So there is some conflicting language in the grant agreement that you guys have now and the NOFA, and what was happening was we said that you cannot have a CHAP commitment prior to the application deadline, and then in the grant agreement it says that you cannot have a CHAP commitment prior to the execution of the award, which was when you signed the grant agreement. And some may have fell in that category. What we are saying now is if you only receive the CHAP commitment prior to the application deadline, then you're ineligible. And furthermore, if you have a CHAP commitment that came in after the application deadline, your units, your public housing units, cannot have converted to another form of rental assistance, whether that be PVV, public-based voucher, or public, what is the other one, PBRA, public-based rental assistance, project-based rental assistance, prior to March 18th. So hopefully you guys don't fall within that category. If you do, please email the ROSS mailbox. For those that serve elderly and disabled or have an elderly disabled service coordinator, you forego your chances of getting future funding if you serve elderly and disabled through the ROSS grant. So if you believe you fall in that category, please email the ROSS mailbox. In the next week or so, I will be looking at those that do receive elderly and disabled funding, and then looking at and making sure that all of those are not serving elderly and disabled through the ROSS grant. So if you continue to move forward with serving elderly and disabled through the ROSS program, then you forego your elderly disabled service coordinator money through the OP fund. So program administration. So the grant term is 36 months, and it starts on March 18th, which is next week Monday. So hopefully you guys have begun to hire your service coordinators and get everything in place. The grant term is the period during which HUD will review the grantee's performance reporting and Standard for Success data, which we will talk about that tool, and other relevant information needed to evaluate the grantee's performance. Grantees cannot expend FY18 grant funds until they have exhausted their prior grant funds. So this is for all of those that are renewal grantees. You cannot expend your FY15 grant or expend your FY18 grant until you have completed or closed out your FY15 grant. If the grantee program has not implemented the ROSS grant within 60 days of the grant term, the grantee must report by letter to the appropriate HUD office. And I just want to add one thing, that I am going to be reaching out to those that have overlapping grant terms, meaning you have an FY15 grant that goes beyond March 18th, 2019, and we are saying that your 2018 grant starts March 18, 2019. I'm going to reach out to you guys to let you guys know guidance moving forward. Your match. So everyone was required to have a 25% match. What's important to note is that for all of those that for all of our grantees, you must maintain at least a 25% match throughout the entire grant. This does not mean that each partner that you work with or that was included in your application must stay a partner throughout the term of the grant. It only means that if a grant or a match partner, say for example, leaves or does not, you guys terminate your contract or whatever type of MOU you may have, then you have to then find another match partner or ask one of your existing match partners to increase their match in order for you to maintain that 25% match requirement. Field offices may ask to see your match letters, so this is something important to know that you have to keep on file. And I think with anything with our grant documents, especially because it's not included, we did not ask for it in the application, it's important to include it on file in case there is monitoring or any type of audits. And I do want to kind of just put out there, not to scare anyone, but you know, these are federal dollars, and sometimes we go through very random audits from either GAO or which is our Government Accountability Office, or our own HUD Inspector General Office. This happens every year without question, and it's just a matter of who is going to be selected. So this is something that we want to make sure that you have on file. Any grant documents, for example, your match letters, your MOUs, any type of grant document that supports your application, you want to make sure that you have it, including what we're going to talk about as far as performance measures and also fiscal management. So contract administrators, so this pertains to those that are resident associations or your troubled PHA, or I think that's the only ones that fall within this category. So contract administrators must ensure that the financial management system and procurement procedures fully comply with 2 CFR Part 200. So the contract administrators must also assist grantees in meeting HUD's reporting requirements. So this is an agreement between the grantee and whoever that contract administrator is to make sure that the terms of the grant are being met. The ROSS grant funds cannot be used to pay for contract administrators, and this is really important. And I'm going to say it again, that grant funds cannot be used to pay for contract administrators. And contract administrators are expressly forbidden from accessing locks, which is how you guys will be drawing down your money, and submitting any vouchers on behalf of the grantees. And you don't want to get into any type of legal trouble here if a contract administrator is doing any of these things, for example, receiving payment from the grant, as well as accessing locks to draw down funds. Uh, Nonprofit status, so all of those that are nonprofit organizations or resident associations, you must maintain your status throughout the term of the grant and be in good standing. That part is super simple. So your funds drawdowns, it will be, so payments of grant funds shall be made only through locks. If you don't have locks access at this time, which some of our newer grantees that may be nonprofits or resident associations may not have locks, the grant agreement says or gives steps on how you can access locks, as well as you can reach out to your HUD local field office or your area ONAP office to get instruction on how you can gain locks access. Those that will, it's actually the field offices that actually work with the grantee to give locks access and not headquarters. So those will be the folks you will need to be in contact with. So your initial drawdown cannot be earlier than the start date of the grant term. So if you have, for example, you want to be reimbursed for cost incurred in January, unfortunately, the Ross grant cannot pay for anything in January because that's before March 18, 2019. However, there is an exception, and that is for those that are FY15 grantees that received an FY18 award, and your FY15 grant has ran out of funds prior to March 18th, but it's between the announcement date, which I believe we announced the Ross Awards right before the day before the government shut down, and that was December 21st, right, December 21st, then you're able to request funds from that date, December 21st, up until March 18th. However, that has to be approved by your HUD local field office or area ONAP office. So if you need more instruction around that or have any comments or concerns, you can email the Ross mailbox. Costs cannot be reimbursed for activities undertaken prior to the start of the grant term, so I'm just repeating myself. Please see grant agreement for exceptions. So your funds drawdown, HUD has received and approved any certifications and disclosures. The grantee may not draw down funds until HUD has received and approved any certifications and disclosures. All preconditions listed on the Notice of Award, Grant Agreement, and the NOFA or award letter is met. The grantee has a username and password from HUD in order to access Grant Solutions to accept the award, and 4, grantees obtain locks access so they can begin to draw down funds. So I want to say just about all are to step 3. There are a couple of grantees that have not accepted their award yet, and I'm thinking you guys want it, but you guys haven't accepted the award yet. So if you are on the call and you haven't accepted the award, please do so by today. We've been emailing and calling about that. So everyone is almost to the place of step 3, and I want to say almost everyone is to the place of step 4, or which is having access to locks, but there may be a few new grantees that will need that access. And I do want to say that for the most part, all grantees, majority of the grantees funds, they're in locks. So once your grant period, which is March 18th, once it starts, you'll have funds in locks so you can begin to draw down for reimbursable eligible expenses. So unexpended 15 balances, I talked about this, which is grantees cannot expend FY15 Ross grants until they have exhausted their prior Ross grant funds, and further guidance will be given to renewal grantees with overlapping grant terms. So if you don't get anything around any guidance this week, please look for it sometime next week. Program evaluation. So achieving results, we have the resident needs assessment, which you guys done, and some of you guys really went all out, and I think it was a fun read. um, especially when looking at a lot of applications to see what's going on in your neighborhoods or in your communities, and knowing how you intend to address, and also hearing about the many partnerships that you guys have, and seeing how innovative you guys will be to address those needs. So HUD requires all grantees develop performance outcome measures that are focused on resident achieving economic and housing self-sufficiency, reducing or eliminating dependency on any types of subsidized housing or welfare assistance, and in the case of elderly and disabled residents, assisting them to continue to live independently. So we do have a new reporting tool, and we'll get into that, and Thaddeus will talk about that in a minute. But HUD will not require submission of the logic model to evaluate the performance. So we're no longer using the FY18 logic model. Grantees, I'm not sure who that was, but yes. Grantees will be part of the Standard for Success pilot program, and the data collected through this pilot program may be used to evaluate the performance of grantees. And I do want to say that we've heard with our new reporting tool how helpful it's been, especially for those that may not have case management softwares, how it could definitely be beneficial, and I'll allow Thaddeus to get more into that. So with no further ado, I'll give it over to Thaddeus to talk about Standard for Success.
Hey, thanks, Trey. Hey, everyone. This is Thaddeus Winsek. I work out of the Office of Business Transformation within HUD, the Grants Management Oversight Division. And I first wanted to start out for my bit to share these two web links with you. The first is the Standards for Success resource page. And that'll be like sort of the first half of what I'm going to talk about, just showing you around what you have available to you, what you can delve in and use, and what sort of resources there are. And then the last few minutes, I'll go into the Grant Solutions Inform tool. It's an online data collection reporting tool. And I'll just very briefly kind of show you the ins and outs. And there actually is a very comprehensive and thorough walkthrough recording on our HUD Exchange page. So I'll just refer that in just a moment so you have that, but I'll kind of give you an overview of everything. So first off, just what is Standards for Success? It's the department's data collection framework for its discretionary funded programs. We started this in federal fiscal year 2017. The federal fiscal year is October 1 through September 30th. So we started in 2017, essentially, and this is going to be our third year of implementation. And we're going to continue to expand and implement it to other programs and grantees. So far, it's been successful. I don't want to toot our own horn, but it's been progressing as we'd like to see. It's showing value to the programs, the grantees, and the tools and resources we've been able to produce have been helpful. And we also have other resources, which I'll go through in a minute, in case you have any other questions throughout this this 3-year period for you guys. So the main tenets of Standards for Success. First, again, sort of from our perspective as a department, is we wanted standardization of data elements. So what you collect on the front lines, we wanted it to be, we wanted an apples-apples comparison across grantees, across programs when we're able to do so, when it makes sense. Secondly, we want what you collect on the front lines, the activities that you do, to actually bolster and support higher-level agency goals. Every department in the federal government has agency priority goals, cross-agency priority goals, other sorts of high-level objectives and initiatives. And so we obviously want this to cascade up into that, and that goes through every program, including ROSS. And then finally, this may be slightly different from the logic model, but we're no longer asking for aggregated reports. We want, and this is how the system is set up, we want individual or recipient level reports. So each individual that you serve, you sort of create a little report or case for them, and then all those individual files, that's what you submit at the end of the reporting period. And it's laid out very, very much in a, if not intuitive, a very logical way. Not to reference the logic model, but don't scrap that. Not related to the logic model at all. It's in a logical way though, so you'll understand how it works. It's sort of like as Trey mentioned, in some ways a case management system if you want to use it or look at it that way, but allows you to save data on individuals that you serve throughout your period of performance, and then when time comes to make your periodic submissions, it's a very logical, straightforward process to do that. But the data, the individual record level data may be a little bit new as far as what you submit to HUD, but obviously from your own standpoints, you're obviously collecting individual record data on people on your end. So shouldn't be too much of a change of pace. Not to repeat too much of what Trey said, but we, for Standards for Success, we follow the federal fiscal year, so October 1 through September 30th, and then 30 days after September 30th, which is October 30th, that is when your reports are due every year, and it's an annual report submission. You all are new grantees. I believe Trey has mentioned March 18th is the start of your grant's period of performance, so that's when you would start reporting under Standards for Success. March 18th of this year till September 30th. That would be your first reporting period, and then you'd still have 30 days thereafter. So just a little asterisk for your first year, but you'll be following 12 months every reporting period thereafter. This is more or less copied from that webpage as well, and these are just the resources you have. I wanted to give you guys slides for these, and I'll show it to you briefly on the webpage as well. But if you have any general questions related to Standards for Success, as far as the framework is concerned, you can go to that first email on the first row, askgmo@hud.gov. We can give you general sort of information on that, or specifically to Standards for Success. And if you happen to send something our way that's better answered somewhere else, we'll just forward it along to the correct party. The second row is Grant Solutions Inform Help Desk. So I'll talk about Grant Solutions Inform in just a moment, but this is the HUD-provided cost-free reporting tool that I think the majority of you guys will use. And they have their own help desk, so when you're using that tool, if you're having any technical issues or you're having problems with logging in or passwords, generally speaking, technical issues with the tool, you can go to help@grantsolutions.gov, and they also have 2 phone numbers that you can speak to someone for as well. Next is we have Pangea Foundation. So for those of you that are users or members of Ask Online, that's the American Association of Service Coordinators, or Family Metrics Software. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it because you're probably not a member. But if you are a member of one of those 2 organizations, you'll be utilizing those tools instead of Grant Solutions. And this email, support@pangeafoundation.org, is your support hotline for that. And like I said, most of you will probably be using Grant Solutions Inform. If you're not using one of those other 2 tools, Ask Online or Family Metrics, and you're interested, you can reach out to them. They are a partner of HUD, but we at HUD we are not advocating or saying that you should use one tool or another. It's just an option. And rest assured, Grant Solutions Inform is absolutely a fail-safe tool that you can use. That is what we have developed with the department. Ask Online Family Metrics, they've aligned with us, which is great as well. So either option works. And then finally, if you have any questions specific to the ROSS program, obviously, as Trey mentioned, go to the ROSS email on the last row there, and they can help you with those. So let me continue. I want to kind of just show you, this is sort of, and this is available on the website, this is just what the data elements or questions, what the structure is, and don't be, this is just a sample, and this is not what you're actually going to have to deal with when you're recording and submitting. This is sort of like our master sheet of data elements that that would be applicable to a program. And just this is how it's sort of, if you think of it from a structural standpoint, you have the name of the element. There's obviously a description to kind of give you some more information to understand what it's asking. And then with the response options, it's going to be as structured as possible in the front end, meaning, you know, if it's asked for a year, you can't put in letters. You know, we're trying to keep it as tightly constricted for your benefits, so there's less errors. And you'll see in the tool that you have to validate, and so that's all part of the process. Just make sure that everything that you put in is in fact what you intended and is accurate. So it's just sort of those fail-safe mechanisms that a lot of programs, software programs use, just to make sure that correct information is being put in. But I just want to let you guys see sort of how the structure is, and I'll show you where this, where the actual document is, to kind of just see if you ever wanted to see what exactly everything there possibly could be entailed in all this, that's where it would be. Lastly, before I show the website, as I was mentioning, these are your options to report. First is Grant Solutions Inform. It's the online data collection reporting tool I mentioned. That's HUD provided, cost-free. You know, unless you want to go out and get another sort of case management system, Ask Online Family Metrics or something else, rest assured, Grant Solutions Inform is going to be completely in compliance and everything you need. If you are a member of Ask Online or Family Metrics, these two are obviously also well vetted, and they're aligned with Standards for Success. So you can continue to use those. If you want to be a member of those, you can reach out to them. They are not cost-free. I don't know, we don't know what their actual fees and rates are, but you could reach out to them. And then lastly, I just want to mention, if you use another case management system, again, not Ask Online, not Family Metrics, you can do so. More or less, you would simply need to make sure that that case management system can render an Excel or XML file in compliance or according to the file templates that we have on the web page. And that way you can, when you actually upload that file, it'll be correctly, it'll basically be able to correctly upload into the Grants Solutions system, so that that information can be then integrated into our larger database. And I'll show you, there's a walkthrough fact sheet that has instructions. And obviously, I think for most of you guys on the call, you wouldn't be the person that would have to be actually doing that sort of technical review. You'd probably have some software engineers or developers to kind of make sure that on your end you guys can comport with that. But I think that's usually a small minority of the cohort that will be using a third-party case management system. For most of you guys, you'll be using the other three options. Hello?
Can we ask questions?
I think we're going to have questions at the end.
All right.
Let me go through, and then yeah, we can answer your guys' questions. This is the same page I showed earlier. Let me go to the web page right now, and then I'll show you the Grant Solutions tool. So I'm going to try to share my screen. So let's see if this works. Okay, so I think you should just be seeing the HUD logo. Let me put up my web browser. And so, someone jump in if this isn't showing, but it should be the Standards for Success webpage. And this is basically all the information I just went through. You have the overview of the data or the information. We have the data collection and reporting dates. We have the reporting tools, and if you click on each one, there's links to those tools. For other case management system, you have the 2 file templates that you can actually click on, and that's again, those templates is what your case management system would have to comply with when it renders your final report for submission. There's a quick sheet to kind of show you how to do that. If you have more questions on this, feel free to ask us at askgmo@hud.gov. Upper right-hand corner is the contact information. This is the table I showed you earlier. Under training resources, if you click on Data Integrity Reference Manual, and then there is a reference manual that goes through each data element if you want to have more information or context to what you're collecting. I clicked on the Appendix A. This is the participant record level form. Again, this is not really something you necessarily even have to go to or check out. I just wanted to let you guys have a broad understanding of all this. This is the data elements that will be in the reporting tool or tools. And this is sort of the entire structure of everything: element name, response options, applicable programs. ROSS is among other programs that are using Standards for Success. So not all of these, this particular document would be applicable to Standards for Success. What I will say is when you're using Grant Solutions or even Ask Online and Family Metrics, only those data elements that you need to report on will be shown. You're not going to have to sift through and figure out which data elements are applicable for your grant. Only those that are applicable to you will be shown. So just wanted to show you that. Let me go back to the landing page. And you're also going to get other training materials. There's a plethora here. I believe if I go under training material, yep, and you go under inform trainings, inform walkthrough orientation, this, and you click on recording, this is a great resource or training guide that I would recommend everyone checking out if you're going to use Standards for Success Grant Solutions Inform tool. It'll give you the entire comprehensive walkthrough. And I am just going to go ahead and show you a quick run through. So it was, actually I'll do it from here. If you go back to the landing page again, and you click on Grant Solutions Inform, you can click right here and it'll take you to the Grant Solutions tool that you then can log into. And you all should, at least when you had received your award, gain some access to Grant Solutions. However, if you need additional users to have access to your account, you can send that to the Grant Solutions help desk. You can send it to askgmo@hud.gov as well, but we're just going to forward it to them as well anyway. And typically you're going to need to use the user account request form. We'll share it with you after this presentation, and it should have been in the prior emails, I believe. But in any event, we're also going to get it posted on the web page as well, just so you have that. Now, I want to go in and I'm going to use actually, I'm not going to go into the real web page. I'm going to go in sort of a dummy site. It's going to be nothing's going to be, there will be no real information, and there's no way I could affect any real information. So I already put in my username and password. Yours, by the way, will look different. It'll look like what is on the web slides. But let me just go in, because after this, it'll be basically the same sort of interface, if this hopefully works. The stage, let me just put in really quick my username and password. The stage website is not what you guys use, and it's just for sort of testing and other sorts of developer-related type of stuff. Sorry about that. I think my page actually just timed out for a moment, or had it up for about an hour or two. So let's see if this works. And we should get in one moment. It may look slightly different depending because I sort of have this sort of master user role where I see all grantees and I see all sort of programs. For you guys, you're going to have just probably one option for almost everything because you only have one grant. If there happens to be multiple grants, well then you'd see your multiple grants in there. But for most people, it's going to be just one option. So most likely on the top, you're going to see what it says OLDC, Online Data Collection. You would click on that. It may look slightly different than this, but it should be pretty straightforward when you log in. And then from here, you're going to have a lot of different things that will be related to you simply because when you start working on reports, you'll start seeing what recent activities, what you've been working on, approval activity, grantee activity, these three sorts of tabs you can click on for quicker access because, again, you'll probably be going here throughout your reporting period to kind of input data as it comes and save. But I clicked on report form entry. I probably should have go back. So you click on the first option on the left, report form entry. This is where you want to click to report your data. And here you go. You go select program name. So we're Ross. Again, for you guys, it's probably just going to be one option, just Ross. You find your grantee name. I'm going to just pick a random one. This is all dummy data, so there's no worries. The next two options, report name. I'm not sure if it'll go automatic for you guys, but in any event, it'll just be the Standards for Success Annual Report, HUD PRL. You should only have one option. And again, funding period, you should only have one option. It should be roughly the period of performance for your grant. But again, it's not going to be exactly the start date. Your March 18th date will not be in there. It's always in the system. It's always going to be October 1 through September 30th, with this one exception from 2017, because that's when we actually started the tool. So don't worry about your exact March 18th date being in there. You just start beginning to collect and report data for that period of time. So this example, there's been multiple years that have been entered. I want to just go to, well, I could actually go to a prior year just to show you what sort of a final, actually let me first go through one sort of in progress. So I clicked on this icon for editing, and this is your report section page. You first have a cover page, and that's sort of your grantee information, and I don't think there's much for you to be able to edit there. It's mostly award information that came from your award document. So here, it's going to, like I said, grantee information. The only sort of stuff that you can edit or would really need to edit, other than, of course, if there's anything wrong here, please let us know. But it should be all accurate. Check for that. Number 10, you can add comments in the text box. You can also add any attachments. PDF, I think, is the format that you can attach documents, so that's there. And then it would show in your actual account sort of like a paperclip under 11A and B, and this is when you can actually certify your information. And so let me go to go back to the reporting section page, and let's see. Yeah, let me go back here. And so when I mentioned before, this is record level data or individual record level data. Each one of these rows is essentially a person. It's a report on a person. And each person that you engage with through the program, you'll create this record, and you can input the appropriate information throughout that reporting period. So, for instance, let's say the first person I serve, well, it's going to be the next row, so this is that householder identifier 0. So I go under Select Action, and this person's already created it, so I'm going to Edit Section. I'll click Go. There we go. So this is what it will basically look like for you guys. Household identifier and person identifier, those are supposed to be unique for each person. Really briefly, and again, this will be covered in other trainings, but the person identifier should be unique for for any person that you serve. There's no sort of methodology or any sort of nomenclature that you need to input. It could be 1, it could be A1, it's whatever makes sense for you or within your record keeping. The household identifier, that should simply be for each, the same number, or I should say code, for each household. So, if there's a 3-person household, each individual, each of those 3 people would have their own unique person identifier, and they should all have the same household identifier when they're in the same household. Everything else should be pretty self-explanatory here. Like I mentioned before, only the data elements that are applicable to you as a ROSS grantee are shown. So it may skip numbers, like right here it goes from 10 to 13, and then it skips over 14 to 15. That's because those other data elements are not applicable to you. Indicator number, these just mean that what each data element rolls up to a higher level program or agency objective. But over here on the right of the response column, so as I was mentioning before, most of them, they're either drop-downs, or if you do have to fill in an answer, it should be somewhat constricted to what's most appropriate, or what would be a logical response. If it's again, it's like example, if it's like a number, you obviously can't put in letters or things like that. So again, this is sort of what it looks like. Last thing I'll just say is, if it's a person that that's actually part of the program, you want to make sure you click on participant. If it's someone who's not really part of the program, they tangentially sort of maybe receive some information from your service coordinator, or usually it's something like informational. Then you could put on non-participant, and what that really means in the actual tool is that if it's participant, which most of these records will be, you have to answer each field. You have to make sure the entire report is complete. If it's a non-participant, you can simply put in just 1 or 2 answers, and then you could validate. And so lastly, what I want to just go over really quickly while I'm in this tool is, if you go back to report section, and let's say, obviously I have no idea how many people you'd be serving over the course of the reporting period, but let's say you served, let's say 50 people. You'd have 50 rows, and then what you would want to do is you would go to, you'd save as you go along. Once you're ready to submit, you validate, and actually it's right here on the screen. And again, this is all covered in that walkthrough training. Once you save, then you validate. Validate, make sure everything was actually correct. Every field has the appropriate response. You didn't make any errors. Once it's validated, then you can go to that cover page, and you can go to Edit and click Go. And then this is where your authorized certifying official could then certify. And then once you certify, you can submit to HUD. And so it's sort of outlined in this ribbon above, under Report Progress. You initialize, which just means you created an account or created a report. Then you can save your reports, validate, certify, which means your authorized official verifies that this is all accurate and correct and complete. and then you can submit to HUD. And then after that, basically it's in HUD's hands for review. If you ever had to make a correction or a change, and HUD had already sort of accepted that report, you would simply you'd sort of make a duplicate report and then submit that and let your HUD contact know that this should be the more up-to-date report. Again, that all that information is covered much more thoroughly and clearly in that walkthrough. So let me get back to the slides, but that's sort of just wanted to give you kind of a rough overview of what that tool looks like if you're going to be using Grant Solutions Inform. And check out that web page, the HUD Exchange page. It's going to be very helpful for you all. We're going to periodically update it. We're going to include the user account request form as another link there for you guys to have that reference to. And let's see, trying to find my actual. Oh, here we go. Just trying to share the slides again. Oops. That should do it. Okay, and oh yeah, and so this is the slide. This is what your actual login page will look like with Grant Solutions. And with that, I'll hand it off to Trey, and then we'll do Q&A.
Great. Thank you, Thaddeus. So for all of those that may say, I have no clue what he was talking about, or I did not follow along as good as I should have, do not worry. Thaddeus is going to provide hopefully another webinar on this. We've done it in the past before any reports are due, and they've been very helpful. So we intend to do that again, hopefully within the next couple of months before your, but definitely before your reports are due October 30th. So the grant agreement also has these reporting dates, but you'll see that here when your reports are due. And this is no matter if you have still have a prior grant, you still will have a report that's due, and I will talk about that on our next slide. But just want to point out that the performance data is due whether you're sending in reports through the Inform tool, your family metrics, your Ask Online, or if you choose to use your own reporting tool by downloading the template, which Thaddeus touched on, but we'll go into further detail about. If you do use that, you still need to also submit your financial reports to your HUD local field office. All right. So the first report that you're going to submit is only going to be it's going to include data from March 18th to September 30th. So it won't be a full year worth of data, and that is because we're also standardizing when reports are due for our ROSS grantees. And this is important to note for those that have FY15 grants that are still active. If a grantee has, and this is a typo, an FY15 grant that has a grant term period of performance that has ended before March 18th, that grantee will need to submit a complete FY15 logic model and other required materials in their annual report. Their data should reflect a 36-month report period. If a grantee has a FY15 grant that has a grant term period of performance that will end after March 18th, the grantee will need to submit a FY15 logic model with their annual report data up to March 17, 2019. These grantees will start to report in the Standard for Success tool starting on March 18th. So that means if you have an FY15 grant that is going beyond March 18th, you will report in the Standard for Success tool, although you're still drawing down from your FY15 grant. And then once you close out that grant, your data for what you have been working on will still be in the Standard for Success or whatever reporting tool that you choose to use. So once again, that data will go, if you have an FY15 grant that goes beyond March 18th, you will report that your data in the logic model up to March 17th, and you'll start using the new reporting tool beginning March 18th. So that data will, from March 18th onward, will be tracked in the Standard for Success pilot program. All right, and I do want to say that we haven't talked about this, and I don't have a slide on it, but there are going to be many of you guys that want access for more people to at your organizations to be able to access the Grant Solutions, the Inform tools, or the reporting tool. We're going to be sending out information and getting that for who do you, or getting information from you on who do you want to sign up, and so we can create the login information and all of those things. So give us a couple of weeks to work through that so that we can get you all access. All right? So next steps before we go into our Q&A. So just a reminder to read the NOFA and grant agreement. Many of you guys may have some questions, and a lot of those questions may be answered in the NOFA or the grant agreement. Talk to your HUD local field office or area ONAP grant administrators. Get to know them. Of course, they're the folks that will be approving your training and travel or admin, and also looking at your drawdown request. So you may find it helpful to go ahead and talk to them and be introduced to them, especially if you're a grantee that has not had a HUD grant before and you're or do not have any contact with your HUD local field office. It will be very helpful. For those that haven't hired your ROSS service coordinators, it would be great to go ahead and hire them, considering that the period of performance is March 18th. Sign up for the ROSS mailing list. We send out, email blasts to all of our ROSS grantees. So it'll be helpful for you guys to sign up there. And I will say that we do intend to have a few webinars throughout the calendar 2018. We're in 2019 calendar year. So feel free to sign up for the listserv so you guys don't miss those webinars. The HUD Exchange site, so Thaddeus talked about the Standard for Success HUD Exchange site, but there's also a ROSS HUD Exchange site that you guys may find to be also very helpful, and not only provides sort of an overview of ROSS, but also goes into detail about promising practices or best practices and getting started, and or how to jumpstart your program and maintain your program throughout the life of the grant. And I kind of jumped ahead when I said we had some webinars, but stay tuned for some exciting webinars and other trainings that we're going to have. We have quite a few lined up, and we are super excited about this bunch to provide that form of TA to you guys, technical assistance to you guys. So here is the ROSS mailbox email address. So that is ROSS, which is ROSS-PIH at HUD.gov, HUD.gov. Feel free to email the ROSS mailbox if you have any questions. And it is question time. So I'm going to get to some of the questions that are in the Q&A box. And we go into 3:30. So I'm going to try to skip some of the questions that are repetitive, and as well as if you have a question on the phone, we'll open it up on the phone as well. I'm going to start on the Q&A box that we have here. Is the training only from DELSA, is the training only for service coordinators? Can these funds be used for resident training and leadership and board development? So once again, we want to make sure that the training dollars are for the service coordinator and them going to trainings. Now, there may be some special cases where you may want to request, because if a resident, for example, for a resident association, if there's a resident member who's a part of the ROSS program that also does some form of work with the service coordinator, then that may be eligible. However, I would say if it sounds shaky, then it may be best for it not to be expended. Unfortunately, with federal dollars, it has to be, can't be any gray areas. It has to be black or white. And these are one of the kind of tricky areas where you want it to be about the support of the training supporting the service coordinator. And I'll take one more question in the Q&A box. Can training money be used for the coordinator to take fair housing training? That is a part of the Ross. Well, any person that has a HUD grant will need to do fair housing. That is something you can email to the Ross mailbox where we can talk about further. Unfortunately, at this time, I don't have an answer for that one. So if you have a question on the phone, which I know there was one gentleman that had a question, we can start there. But if you have a question, you can press *6 to unmute your phone.
Yeah, Trey?
Yes.
This is Tom from Lummi.
Hello, how are you?
Pretty good. I was the one that made the comment about the logic model being retired. What I'm hearing is that this new grant solutions, say we use that model, it sounds like there is an attempt to reduce the amount of text that comes in a report. What we found with the logic model was that it was so unusable that we had to supplement our report with an actual narrative report so you guys would know what we're doing. And unfortunately, this system seems like a lot of that's going the same direction.
Right. So, yeah, I will say that our reporting is very quantitative. It's not going to be as qualitative as many of you guys would probably like. We are going to find ways to strengthen our qualitative data. However, what we're trying to see is and track our resident outcomes and your outputs, and that's what we have to report out honestly to Congress and other leadership as to who is the Ross program serving, how they're being served, and how many folks are being served, and then what are their outcomes.
Okay, that was one thing that concerned me because you were talking about in this database, every participant has to basically have a separate entry in the database.
Yep.
What happens when our activities are concerning groups of people on a repetitive basis?
Right. So this is going to be strictly individual record level data. The reporting tool is just what you have to report to us through October 30th. However, it doesn't take away from what you can present outside of the reporting tool, what you will want to send to HUD. We have that countlessly come to our Ross mailbox where folks also report to us beyond just the reporting tool, either a success and achievement of their Ross program or of their coordinators.
Okay, I understand that, but I'm trying to get as to whether these participants are entered in the database only once. Not every single time they're contacted or there's a group, I mean, do we end up having to enter names every time there's a community meeting or something like that?
Yep. And Tom, I know we can talk more about this afterwards because I want to get to more questions. But yeah, you're not entering the data more than once. You're entering the data once. You can track them throughout the life of the grant. So you're going in, and once we have the webinar, we'll show that each individual will have a case or a file within the tool, and you're going in and updating that information. And what HUD is seeing is the data from over time. All right. Is there another question? I think I heard someone. Is there another question?
I have a question. This is Carmen from Seattle Housing Authority.
How are you?
Good, thank you. So I can see in the SFS database that you've demoed that there is an option to select information not collected. Is that, do we have to collect every data point that shows up there, or is it reasonable for us to say that piece of information doesn't inform our particular focus or service delivery, and then just select information not collected on that?
Great question. So we actually will be sending around, and I didn't want to send it out too soon to scare you guys, but requirements for, in the tool, what each of you guys will be required to report on. There are some data elements that that will be nice for HUD to know, but not necessarily required. So for example, there are questions that may ask about disability or around sort of health status, and those particular questions we may not care to know, and as a housing authority or a nonprofit or resident association, you want to be maybe careful of asking. So not every question you are required to answer, but those that are required, we actually have a data guide that will let you know what is required or not.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Hey, I have a question, Trey.
Yes.
This is Jessica from Alabama. So my question is, and I may have missed this, how will I find specifically, or where do I find specifically what my particular goals are? And I may have missed that part because I think I jumped into the call late, but I want to know.
Yep. So yeah, it's in the FY18 NOFA. So if whatever, are you saying you don't know which areas of need your housing authority chose?
Yes, I do know the areas of need. Gotcha. I guess I'm kind of thinking about like the FY15 gotcha. Grant and comparing it to how you all are doing the 18. So
yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't. So the logic model had a section where you had to put in goals. Is that what you're thinking about?
Right.
Yep. So you guys won't put in goals this year. So no one is putting in that they will assist 18 people, and then at the year end you're saying, oh yeah, I worked with 18 people. It's going to be a little bit different where we're saying the goal is we want to see a positive increase in the number of folks that went from having no high school diploma to having a high school diploma. And so we can be able to see that through your data.
Okay, so my question too is like the specific areas of need that we chose to work in our request for the grant itself, that those are the only things that we're going to be reporting on, and not specifically any other options that were available that we did not choose.
Right. So it will be what you're required to report on. So it won't be, you can report on all of the options if you find the want to do so, but it will what you're required to report on will be specific to those areas of need. So for example, there's some folks that do not work with elderly and disabled residents, and so we're not requiring that they answer data elements for those that are not elderly and disabled. As well as when you get into the tool, and you'll see this, and we'll go more into this, say you do serve elderly and disabled, but you also serve youth, or you may serve a work-able adult. Those particular questions around elderly and disabled may not be answered for an individual that is a work-able adult. So that would be an instance where you'll say either not collected or not applicable. And so it will be those case-by-case situations, and we'll get more into that when we have that webinar on the reporting tool. But we will have what is required and what is not required for what type of grant you may have or what type of areas you're addressing. And then from there also, we do, and Thaddeus will attest that we've provided a lot of TA to grantees throughout that reporting time, which was a lot around September and October, to work out those case-by-case situations.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
It'll be really quick. Okay, so I have a FY15 grant that does not end until September 30th. And I understand that we've also been awarded the FY18 grant. I understand the difference between reporting period end and reporting period beginning because of the overlap. I guess my question is, if am I still reporting on the overall grant for 2015 at the end of September?
Yep. So yes, you can report on the grant, but you will have in that logic model just data up until March 17th. So, and what we will use, it's just so you won't be doing double reporting. It's really for you guys and also for us. So you guys won't be doing double reporting, meaning reporting the same people in 2 separate reports. And then for us, we're not doing double counting. So we're looking at, because your 15 data may also have participants from your 18 collection for your 18 grant. So when you turn in your report for September 17th, and it's for anyone that has overlapping grants, that data will go up until March 17th, 2019, and data from March 18th onward will be collected in the new reporting tool.
Thank you.
No problem. So we have 3 more minutes. I'm going to answer one of the questions in the Q&A box from Lisa. She asks, if you are a Ross coordinator for public housing and have multiple buildings under the housing authority that you serve, did you have, and the question did not finish. So Lisa, if you can, it's continued. Do you have to submit a Standard for Success report for each building or just report individuals in one report? So yeah, we'll get more into how you'll go into reporting, but each individual is going to have a case file. Not each building will need a separate account, and it'll all make sense. We're not looking for, we're not reporting by each building or by each project or development. We're looking at whatever is under your portfolio for the Ross grant. You're reporting on each of those individuals. Is there another question on the phone?
Yes, Trey, I have a question regarding the rotation of training funds.
Okay.
The $2,500, is that anniversary based on when the award is received, or how is that annually distributed to be used?
Yeah, so it's annual based on it's a good question on when the award was received. So for example, March 18th, 2019 to March 17th, 2020, 2020, that would be 1 year. And so the hope is that you would expend $2,500 for training within that year. Can there be instances where there may be more training dollars towards 1 year than another? There may be those cases, but that's up to the field office to approve of that and for you guys to justify why there needs to be more money towards training for a particular year.
For a particular year.
Yeah, so for example, there may be 2 trainings, like for example, you may say in April, there's a big training that's happening, but also in December, there's another training that's happening, and that may look like it's coming into your year 2, but it's still within that year 1, time frame. I can see why a field office may say, let's approve those training dollars for both trainings, even though it fell within that first year. Does that make sense?
Well, I'll give you a real true example. The award was received April 15th, 2018. I attended training November 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm available for training the 2,500 again April 2019.
I would say you can take the training, and the field office, I mean, we know and we work with grantees, so it's not like a hard rule. Work with the field office, and of course, if you have questions, you can include the Ross mailbox. But we we want to be flexible, and we know that trainings don't necessarily come every year, or not every year you may be able to take a training for whatever circumstance that may be for. So, I mean, for the most part, I found field offices to be pretty lenient and also flexible around the training with the approving of those trainings.
Okay, so it is based on the fiscal year of the grant and not so much of the anniversary date of the housing authority that I work for.
It's around the anniversary date of the Ross grant. So,
Okay,
for example,
thank you.
yep, does that make sense? Got it.
Yes, it does now.
Okay,
thank you.
I know we're at time, and I could take one more question if you're on the phone. Great. So this session is being recorded, and we do plan to send out a link to all to those a part of the listserv. So if you haven't signed up for the listserv, please go ahead and sign up for the listserv. So when this link is ready, we can send it out to you guys. There's also an opportunity for you guys to download the PowerPoint, and excuse the typos, but if you look in the middle section of the screen, it has a little tab that says Files to Download. You can download the Ross presentation there. And thank you all, and if you have questions, you can email the Ross mailbox at ross-pih@hud.gov. Thank you.
Everybody else doing, just 'cause everybody doing what they all do. If one thing I know, I fall but I grow. I'm walking down this road of mine, this road that I go home. So am I